Welcome to the Alfa Romeo we've all been waiting for. It's called the 33 Stradale. It's got 2 seats, rear-wheel drive, and a 612 brake horsepower petrol engine. Where do I sign?
If you think the 33 Stradale looks familiar, then you'd be correct. It may be launching well into the 21st century, but this is a remake of the original 33 Stradale, first seen way back in 1967. Just like the classic, it's going to be custom built at the Carrozzeria Touring Superleggera, with each of the 33 examples unique in their spec and details. It's the first time Alfa has produced a custom built car since 1969, and we're told that we can now expect more in the future. The price tag? Well, it's a little irrelevant because all 33 examples are now sold, but for those lucky enough to get their hands on one, it's rumoured to cost around £2.5 million. That is an extraordinary amount of money, and while I'm not going to say it's absolutely worth it, I mean, just look at it. The overall form is super slippery, and thanks to customer feedback, there's no active aero on the bodywork in order to keep the lines clean and tidy. They've also done their best to keep the proportions the same as the original, so the wheelbase relates to the length and the diameter of the wheels to the height. For reference, its dimensions are very similar to the Maserati MC20, and we'll talk more about the link between the two cars a bit later. But first, let's take a look at some of the details.
I mean, we could honestly start anywhere with this car in terms of design, but the front seems as good a place as any. So as you can see, there's the V which has been built into the bonnet, and that takes you to the center point of the car. And you've got the Alfa Romeo shield here, which you can either have as a 3D carbon model, or you can have it as a more traditional 2D model. And it depends how far away you're standing, how clear the Alfa Romeo badge is in that. It's a really nice piece of detail, and it picks up nicely on the lighting in the clusters here. And there's 33 of these little stripes, and originally they were going to put the customers' initials, each of the 33 customers, in those stripes, but then they ditched that idea in case one of the customers sold the car and then you've suddenly got some random letters on your lights. So probably a good idea, but I mean, just look at them. Look at the detailing in there. You can change the color, so that's red now, but you can change it to gold. And it's just a really nice unit. And it also has an aero benefit as well, because the airflow goes in there and that helps feed the radiator. There's also the technical element below, which is the carbon splitter. And you'll see that throughout the car, where you've got the carbon elements low down and the more artistic bodywork higher up. Also this, it lifts up, it's front hinged, it's the front cafango they call it, and the whole thing lifts up in one, just like it did on the original.
Moving along the side, you've got beautifully detailed 20-inch wheels, 6-pot carbon ceramic brakes designed by Brembo, the quadrifolio graphic just below the dainty door mirrors with tricolore highlights, and large side air intakes for the mid-mounted 3-litre twin-turbo V6.
And check out the doors as well. As I said, you've got the carbon fibre element underneath or lower down, so that's the carbon fibre side skirts. You can change where your quadrifolio clover leaf is. You can move that around, you can take it away entirely. You can also have an auto delta badge there if that's what you prefer. But yeah, the doors, they open in a butterfly pattern, and as you can see, they're made of carbon and aluminium, and they cut out into the roof. And the reason, or part of the reason behind that design, was that it was on the original, and the original was so low down that unless the roof opened up when you got in, you couldn't really thread your body in because it was so low. This car obviously is a little bit higher, but it still kept that roof cutout, which if you see the car from above, it is one of the most striking top-down views of any car on sale today, or kind of on sale, you know what I mean. And then coming further down the side, there's 3 choices of alloy wheel design. You can have those in different colors as well. And then if you look at the rear end, it is probably my favorite angle. Now, Alfa Romeo calls it a brutal rear end because it's supposed to be super aggressive, and it's probably got the most amount of function of any angle on the car, because as you can see, a huge amount of it is dedicated to the carbon underside and the carbon diffuser, because all of that aerodynamic element is hidden, and this is probably the most obvious part. You've got quad pipes. You can have the colors of the pipes changed as well if you want. And if you check out the rear light cluster here, you've got a split indicator, you've got a lovely pattern, we've got more of those stripes that was seen on the front, and this carbon outlet here, you can probably see it better on the other side, you can actually have that removed and just have it a nice flat panel which looks completely flush with the rest of the car, and that gives it a bit more of a classical design. But yeah, you can see a bit more aero there. You can also change this so you don't get any extra carbon on the top, and you can see that that V that we spoke about at the front, it comes down the center line and it brings the whole car together. And obviously you can change the script of Alfa Romeo there. Also, this engine cover is quite tinted, but it is still transparent, translucent. You can see the 3-litre V6 engine within. I mean, yeah, I don't know about you, probably one of the best rear ends of any car I've ever seen.
Underneath all of this gorgeous bodywork is a carbon fibre monocoque borrowed from the Maserati MC20, which, incidentally, was initially set to be an Alfa Romeo. Attached to the monocoque are aluminium subframes where the 33 Stradale wears dual-arm suspension with active dampers and semi-virtual steering. Meanwhile, the engine sends 621 brake horsepower to the rear wheels via an 8-speed DCT borrowed from the MC20, and also uses an electronic limited slip diff on the rear axle. This all sounds great, but it wouldn't be the first time that Alfa has produced a car that looks incredible on paper and your phone background, but then doesn't deliver on the road. To find out if it's the same story with the 33 Stradale, what you're about to see are my very first impressions of getting into and driving the car.
Okay, so this really is my very first time driving the 33 Stradale. I've honestly just jumped in, turned the aircon off so it's a bit hot as well, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me. First impressions, this is the Model 0, it's a prototype, so there's going to be a couple of odd noises. The steering's a little bit noisy, you'll notice that, and a couple of the switches are a bit looser, but the finished customer cars, we're told, will be completely finished and everything secure and in place, which you would expect nothing less for this amount of money. Yeah, I mean, first impressions is it is like a spaceship with the glass above your head and the cutouts into the roof. I mean, the interior, we haven't spoken about it. You can have it in regular Tributo form with the leather, or you can have it in Alfa Corse, which is typically more, well, it's sportier, so there's more Alcantara carbon, but actually, like the rest of the car, like the exterior, you can customize pretty much everything, and we did that earlier on with the configurator, and I got to choose how I wanted my car to look and had different colors of leather and the dashboard. In terms of screens, it's very minimal. There's a 10.25-inch TFT display, which is the digital dashboard display right in front of me. That's configurable. It's different from any other Alfa Romeo display I've seen, so that's new for this car, and it's very clear, easy to use, and it's also got lights that tell you when the optimum point to change gear is on the actual binnacle, so kind of like how the M3 E46 had when you were warming it up. We've also got a hidden fold-out touchscreen, which is the regular Alfa Romeo Stellantis touchscreen, so 10.25-inch touch button down there. That works perfectly fine, but it's hidden, so you can hide it away and you don't have to have it on all the time, which is a nice touch. For the rest of this car, we've got so many actual physical controls and buttons. We've got switches down here, we've got switches for the drive mode, the suspension, we've got a bank of switches up here for the windows. I mean, it's great to see physical controls and not have everything on a touchscreen. So interestingly, the first thing that they've got us to do is take the car out on the Balocco test track. So no easy introduction. I'm following an Alfa Giulia GTA pace car, who I'm told isn't going to hang around. Oh, brake pedal feels interesting. It goes quite a long way initially. There is definitely braking there, but that caught me out a little bit. Front end, it feels super light, super agile, really nice sharp steering, not too much. Really nice boosty soundtrack, much boostier than how this engine sounds in the Giulia Quadrifoglio.
In fact, it sounds mighty similar to the Nettuno engine in the MC20. Alfa Romeo hasn't said that it is the same engine, but they also haven't denied it. And owing to all of the tech specs, at least the ones that I can see, being identical, and hearing it whistle and whoosh as I build up the speed, I reckon that any changes are very minor.
Gearbox is nice and responsive. There's a little bit of lean, but it settles in really nicely. Right, let's have a look. What suspension mode are we in? put it in a firmer suspension mode. Onto the brakes. Yeah, you do get good feel once you get past that initial lightness in the brake pedal. Brake-by-wire braking. Oh yeah, that front end is good in the tight stuff. You don't even really feel like you need to have any weight over the front end to get it to turn. It's just super responsive.
As a car that you can jump into and go quickly and straight away, the 33 Stradale feels exceptionally forgiving. As £2.5 million limited edition cars go, it's dangerously keen to egg you on and dare you to take more and more speed into corners.
Right, we're going a little bit quicker now, and you'll forgive me because I don't actually know this track and this is the very first time I'm driving it, so I'm going to have to be a bit careful. Working the ABS and the traction there. See what the balance is. Yeah, the brake pedal feel I think is going to take me a bit of getting used to. As I said, there's a fair bit of travel initially, and then the feedback that you get and the pushback from the pedal is a little bit inconsistent when you reach the point of where you're reaching optimum braking. I think like the MC20, it gives you what is actually a really nice compromise between feeling like you're in quite a raw supercar, but also keeping the worst bits away from you so that you can still enjoy it and it doesn't feel too overwhelming. Gearbox is really nice. Gearbox is from the MC20. Responds really nicely, and the throttle response is good as well. There's only the tiniest delay, and the turbos spool up so quickly that you're never left wanting any more power. And actually, I mean, the red line is at 8,000 RPM. It's not the kind of engine that you really feel that you need to rev it out, but if you want to, there is some incentive to get there, but there's so much low down torque from 3,000 RPM or so that you can just leave it in the higher gears and it's just as good.
As you can hear, it's hard not to draw comparisons with Maserati's supercar. I feel like the Alfa turns in with a little more aggression and bite from the front end, but then this could also be down to the tyres and conditions. The two cars do feel very similar to drive, which absolutely isn't a bad thing. But if you were expecting your £2.5 million to buy you an exclusive Alfa Romeo driving experience, then think again. Although, having said that,
why is the window opening all by itself?
alas, my time with the 33 Stradale was very brief. Almost as soon as I got used to its brake pedal and sentient passenger window, it was time to hand back this £2.5 million work of art into the care of Alfa Romeo. In summary, the 33 Stradale is possibly the prettiest car of the 21st century. It's a reimagining worthy of the original, and on first impressions, it's been blessed with all of the performance you'd expect, not just for the money, but also from Alfa Romeo's Halo car. All 33 examples are now sold, and it's been this way well before anyone got behind the wheel. Depending on how you look at it, the similarity to the MC20's driving experience might be seen as a disappointment. It is a car that costs a tenth as much after all, and is nowhere near as exclusive. But then, the very fact that the 33 Stradale exists is a miracle in itself. It looked for all the world like Alfa Romeo was going to silently slide into the production of EV SUVs without so much as a nod to their wonderful past. But thankfully, the 33 Stradale changes that. If this is to be the last Alfa Romeo supercar with a petrol engine, then what a way to go out.